What is going on, everybody? ZyoniK here, and in today's video, Jungle Cup, bringing something spicy here, a core of Shadow Magnezone and Buzzwole with Palossand, and Palossand absolutely counters the Vigoroth Safe Swaps, which is why I'm utilizing the Magnezone and the Palossand there. It's a really nice combination. We catch so many flyer leads, Vigoroth Safe Swap teams. It's pretty much like an automatic win at that point. I hope you guys enjoyed. The Buzzwole was pretty spicy as well, so let's go and get right into it. Alright, getting into the first battle. Magnezone on the lead versus Steelix. This is a terrible, terrible matchup, so I'm going to go ahead and swap out into Palossand right away. And notice what happened. They're a little core broken right here, so I'm going to be able to go for a Scorching Sands for free. This is super effective damage, and the Steelix is going to be feeling the heat right there as they decide to shield. Now, I will decide to shield here, thinking that it might be Crunch, which it is. That would be super effective damage, and they decide to swap in an Altaria, which is perfect because we have Shadow Ball here. This is going to do a lot of neutral damage. Palossand is very versatile in this meta as we go ahead and land for about 50% HP. A little shy there, but close enough where now if they decide to not throw, which they do right here, I would have been able to get to another Shadow Ball. So I'm going to go ahead and let the Sky Attack go through. I'm going to look to come in and load up on energy with Magnezone, as I didn't want to give up the second shield there on Palossand because I might need it for Buzzwole. I'm going to go ahead and let this charge move go through. It's likely going to be Sky Attack, but they decided to go for the Moonblast instead, and now I'm going to go ahead and aggressively farm down. I'm going to have to swap out right away into Buzzwole to get ahead on energy, and they are not swapping out, and they do at the last second, and it's going to be Vigoroth in the back. This makes a lot of sense. Vigoroth is on almost every single team. I've used it myself. It is everywhere. Probably the most common Pokemon and the easiest Pokemon to predict on a lot of teams because of how strong it is. But Buzzwole is going to be able to handle it, and now we're looking to be in a very good situation where I will shield the Rock Slide and farm down. It would be neutral damage, right? We are part bug, and now we're going to look to go for the double superpower right here to close this game out. But unfortunately for me, my opponent is going to be able to get the Psychic Fangs off, and that gets me way too low, where now I might not be able to get to the second superpower here. So we will be going down to the Dragon Tail. I throw the Mirror Shot right away. This is going to do a decent amount of chip damage, and then I'm going to be able to survive that Dragon Tail that they got through, and I can go for Wild Charge now, and this is going to be enough damage to one-shot the Steelix. Boom, down it goes. Good battle. Alright, moving into the next one. Magnezone on the lead versus Altaria. Really nice lead right here, obviously very positive for us because of our backline, and we will see that they're actually deciding to stay in. Now this makes me question if they are core broken. A lot of the times we actually do see a Steelix swap in, so I'm going to go ahead and bring in the Palossand right here. If they do have Vigoroth in the back anyways, our Buzzwole can do well in that matchup, right? But Palossand in this situation doesn't need to worry about the Psychic Fangs and Dragon Tail. We just need to worry about the potential Crunch, and we can do a lot of damage to that Altaria on the back end, as we're going to go ahead and go for Scorching Sands, and they decide to let it go through. So I'm going to look to go for the aggressive farm down right here. I will have to give up a shield in order to do so, but unfortunately for me, it is going to be Crunch, which is thankful. Unfortunately for me, Dragon Tail simultaneously KOs me. This is tough. So what I'm going to look to do is come in with Buzzwole. It's a 50-50 shot right here, and they actually had Vigoroth in the back, so that paid off. They swap in the Altaria. I'm going to have to shield this Sky Attack, as I'm going to need my Buzzwole in order to handle the Vigoroth, and then I'm going to look to load up on energy for a bit, make sure I get plenty on the back end, and then swap into Magnezone right here and start putting pressure down. Mirror Shot is going to be doing neutral damage. They might want to shield because of the Wild Charge, which they do, which is perfect. And then now we also get the attack debuff right there, which is even better. Mirror Shot is such a nice move to have, and we're going to go ahead and look to load up on energy and go for the double wild, or the Mirror Shot right here, sorry. Mirror Shot is enough to KO from this range if they decide to let it go. And then we can go for the Wild Charge here against the Vigoroth. This one-shots Vigoroth. Superpower one-shots Vigoroth. It's a win-win situation. Boom! See ya! And that is going to be a good game, very well played. All right, moving to the next one. Magnezone on the lead versus Shadow Steelix right here. So we're going to once again swap into Palossand, but they swapped before me. And what I find very interesting right here is they swapped before me in anticipation that I was going to swap. And maybe they thought I was going to go into Vigoroth Mirror, and they wanted to get ahead on energy for that matchup, right? Because the Vigoroth that is ahead is going to be winning. That's my guess. The reason why they would swap so fast is because anticipation for me, but unfortunately for them, I have a Palossand here, and as you guys can see, Palossand is a hard wall to a Vigoroth. We still take a good amount of damage from Rock Slide, but we can easily go up to double Scorching Sands here, knock out the Vigoroth, and go for a Scorching Sands against the Steelix, unless we see something else come in. In that case, we would go for Shadow Ball, but we're going to go ahead and go for the Scorching Sands. We flipped the mid game right there, obviously, because they blind swapped into Vigoroth, and then we will be able to come in with Buzzwole, and that is going to be a good game, very well played. They likely have a flyer in the back. Could be a lot of different things. If it's Talonflame, we're still going to do a lot of super effective damage. I will let the Psychic Fangs go through, and then I'm just going to go ahead and load up on energy and look to go for the double or the aggressive farm down here. I will have to shield, and we're going to hope that I can fully farm down as Psychic Fangs now double debuffed me, and we are able to do it, which is perfect. And now we see it's actually not a flyer in the back. It is Scrafty. This is like worst case scenario. So what I'm going to do is go for double lunge here, hoping to get the debuff and get a shield. And we'll see if they decide to shield right here, which they do. And now I can go for the Wild Charge against the opponent. I probably should have gone for Superpower on the second one to make sure that I get the knockout had they no-shielded twice. That was my lose con ultimately. But I can go for Wild Charge here and close this out. So a slight misplay on my end. But I definitely would have, in hindsight, obviously go lunge and Superpower. We get a shield or a knockout either way. So that is going to be a good game. All right, moving to the next one, Magnezone versus Mantine. Obviously, really nice lead. It doesn't get much better than this, and they are likely going to be swapping Vigoroth. So we're going to go ahead and bring in the Palossand right here, as we can easily lock this down. Again, much like the previous matchup against the Vigoroth, we're going to want to have energy on the back end so that we can go for Shadow Ball against the Mantine. Now, my opponent went for Brick Break right there, which is kind of interesting. It's definitely not going to do a lot. Rock Slide, if they have, they probably have Body Slam Brick Break, to be completely honest. But Rock Slide in this matchup is going to be your best bet. And now I'm in a position where I might be able to go for an aggressive farm down depending on how much damage they're going to be doing here as they do go for Body Slam. So it is Body Slam Brick Break. But now I'm going to see if I can actually get the full farm down. This is going to be pretty close. The counters and Body Slams, even though they are resisted, they are going to start adding up. So now I'm like, I don't want to risk it. I'm just going to go ahead and go for the undercharge right here. If it knocks out, so be it, which it probably will. And then now we actually have quite a bit of health still on Palossand, where the Mantine's going to have to throw energy in order to knock us out. As we do decide to go for Shadow Ball here. And then we're going to look to go for the aggressive race, as they might try to fully farm me down. 50% HP right there, which is really nice. And we don't get it in time, unfortunately. But we do have the Magnezone here, and it will, in order to get the Volt Switch through. Sorry, started to jumble my words. We will counter swap right away, and they do bring in Quagsire. So this is looking to be a good game, very well played. The Buzzwole can easily handle this, especially with the lunge debuffs. Still does great neutral damage against the Quagsire, and it's just going to be really nice because these Aqua Tails will not be doing as much, right? We could go for Superpower, but ultimately we're going to be debuffing ourselves, so the best way to play this out is to debuff our opponent, and Buzzwole or Magnezone can easily fast move down the Mantine in the back, so we will be giving up the second shield here on the Aqua Tail, and then we're going to look to go for the load up on energy, as they're going to be able to get to a third here, which is fine. But I can easily survive that. And now we're just going to go ahead and build up to double Superpower. This will knock out Mantine, and it'll knock out the Quagsire here as they go for Aqua Tail. Now, they decide to swap, and I counter swap at the exact same time in anticipation that that's what they would do. As now I can go for Wild Charge against the Quagsire. Mind you, they still have one shield remaining. This gets the final shield, but they decide to let it go. And that is going to be a good game, very well played. All right, moving into the next one, we have Magnezone on the lead versus Skarmory. Once again, good lead. Odds are we see Vigoroth Safe Swap. This is what happens every single time. If you see a flyer lead, there it is. We swap in the Palossand. Now, what you could do, and what I started to notice as I did these battles more, is actually don't do a Volt Switch fast move on your Magnezone because they're going to swap out anyways. Just wait for them to swap and go straight into the Palossand if you see the Vigoroth, right? Because that is going to be your best bet, as you won't take as much damage. Now, Scorching Sands here still does a great amount of damage. We just want to ensure that we have energy on the back end. Like I've shown you guys multiple times before, we are able to get these flyers, whether it's Altaria, Mantine, Talonflame, Skarmory. You're going to get them to about 50% HP roughly with Palossand if you're able to land a Shadow Ball. So we're going to go ahead and let this next charge move go through. It is going to be the Body Slam, and then we are going to load up on energy. And now in this one, I decided to try to go for the aggressive farm down. I'm trying different things out. Obviously, I have the shield now, but I thought maybe I could still get a lot of damage and shields against this Skarmory. So let's see what they decide to bring in. It's going to be the Quagsire. So they actually brought in a Quagsire instead of Skarmory, which is still good for me because I can do a lot of damage with Scorching Sands. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get to another one. This does have a chance to debuff them, and it'll still do a great amount of damage, so I don't necessarily need to go for Shadow Ball, but they do decide to double shield, which is fine. We're going to go ahead and come in with Buzzwole right here. We just need to be concerned about the Stone Edge. It's neutral against Buzzwole and can actually do a lot of damage, but I will decide to no shield as it is going to be an Aqua Tail bait. They swap into Skarmory, so I'm going to bank the superpower right there. That's very important, and I'm going to go ahead and come in with the Magnezone here to go for the aggressive farm down. If they decide to go for Brave Bird, which they do, I'm just going to be shielding that as it's the obvious play on their end, and now I can go for double Wild Charge here against the Quagsire, because what needs to happen is they have to throw energy to get rid of me. Double Wild Charge will KO. Look at this damage. That's a lot of damage. So now they have to throw energy, and remember, we do have superpower basically ready to go, so the Aqua Tail will take us out, and then we knock out here with superpower. So that is going to be a good game, very well played. This team, obviously, very strong into a flyer lead based on what we commonly see, and these flyer lead Vigoroth teams are very common. All right, moving to the next one. Something spicy here. Guzzlord lead. This is an interesting combination that I have to face off against. We are resisting Dragon Tail, but we still take a good amount of damage from it. Palossand takes super effective damage from Crunch, and Buzzwole can do pretty well against the Guzzlord. So I decided to go for Mirror Shot right there, hoping to, I mean, we wouldn't get a shield, but I will decide to give up a shield here, as it is going to be Dragon Claw. I was thinking it might be Crunch or the Brutal Swing, and we do see Clodsire swap in, so I'm going to go ahead and overload on energy and come in with Palossand. Palossand can do very well in this matchup because of the Mudshot Scorching Sands combination. It is super effective damage here against the Clodsire. And obviously with Clodsire here, it's great that we can keep the Buzzwole and Magnezone away from it because they don't do too hot in that matchup. And now we got to get to this Scorching Sands in time. Should I have swapped in right away? Yeah, probably. I'm a bit behind, and I'm going to have to give up a shield on this Earthquake now in order to maintain switch advantage, but what I'm going to look to do is build up to basically double Scorching Sands. If they decide to shield this, I will be able to get to another one, and they have to throw energy to knock me out anyways, but they decide to let it go. So now it's the 0 to 2 shields, which is really rough for us. I'm going to go ahead and go for the Scorching Sands here, and now what I'm actually going to look to do is swap into Buzzwole so they don't farm up too much energy. They want to throw a Dragon Claw anyways, which is fine, but my hope is that it's actually a flyer in the back, like Talonflame, Altaria. It's not going to be Altaria, but it was actually another Palossand, which is a really cool combination, as this has Sand Attack as the fast move instead of Mud Shot. And this is obviously going to prove very bad for me because they will be able to load up on energy. They're doing super effective damage to my Magnezone. They can easily knock out with a Shadow Ball against my Buzzwole. So this is about as bad as it gets. I'm going to go ahead and come in with the Magnezone here. I'm hoping to go for Mirror Shot and then Wild Charge to try to see if I can get a knockout, but they decide to no shield, and then I don't have enough energy for the Wild Charge there, so I have to go for double Mirror Shot, unfortunately, as we will go down to fast moves. I counter swap into my own Palossand, but they obviously have a charge move ready. So obviously, the double ground resisted to counter backlines are very tough to deal with if you do have a fighter on your team, and obviously a Magnezone. So good battle to my opponent. All right, next one, Magnezone versus Whiscash. Very bad lead. But what we always see with the Whiscash is a Skarmory. So we're going to swap into Palossand right away. This is a bad matchup, right? They can do a lot of damage with Scald, but we can also put a lot of pressure back with the Scorching Sand. So I'm going to go ahead and shield the first Scald and then look to load up on energy, anticipating that they may try to swap to catch a charge move, but they didn't. This is perfect. We're going to go ahead and go for that Scorching Sands right here. Going to do a lot of damage, and they decide to shield themselves. Now, what I love about what's happening right here on the battlefield is we are distancing our Magnezone from this Whiscash. Could there be a Vigoroth in the back? Yeah, there very well might be. But at least we know we keep Magnezone away from Whiscash, as the Magnezone can actually one-shot the Vigoroth like I've shown you earlier with Wild Charge. Now this Whiscash stayed in so long that my switch clock is actually coming back up, and I am able to get 2 shields from them, and I also get the attack drop right there, which is, it's a beautiful thing to see. Scald, probably going to be enough to KO right here, which is fine. We're going to come in with Buzzwole and load up on energy. They swap into Vigoroth, and sure enough, look what was in the back. We're going to go ahead and let the charge move, we have to let the charge move go through. I didn't want to throw superpower right away. I wanted to overload on energy because I know that we should be able to get to this lunge right here, and it might just be enough to KO. I didn't want to throw superpower if I didn't have to, but I think the lunge is enough. And then now we will probably see Skarmory in the back. Remember, their switch clock is down, so if it is in fact Skarmory, we do 1 counter for superpower, but they actually come in with Whiscash, so I throw the superpower anyways, and this is going to be a good game. Very well played as Whiscash goes down. Boom! Final Pokemon, Skarmory. There it is. We go ahead and swap, but they decide to surrender. Good game. Alright, moving into the next one. Magnezone on the lead versus Mantine. Very good lead. What do we see? Vigoroth Safe Swap, and this time I didn't do the Volt Switch fast move, which I had mentioned earlier. I was kind of learning as I was doing this. I'm like, it's a bit more optimal to just wait, especially when you know they're swapping out. Just wait that second for them to swap out, and then come in with Palossand, because you save a lot of health on Magnezone, which is going to come in crucial later on in these battles. Now they decide to go for Rock Slide right here, and the Rock Slide throwing Vigoroths are going to be the tougher ones to face off against, because it actually does quite a bit of damage compared to the Body Slam spammers or the Brick Breakers, as we're going to go ahead and go for a Scorching Sands here. This is enough to knock out. If they decide to shield, then obviously we just throw another one, but they're obviously going to let it go, and we do see the Mantine come in, so we're free to go for Shadow Ball. Now we're a bit healthy compared to the last time we faced off against a Mantine, which means we might just be able to get to another Shadow Ball in time, which now in this case is going to be forcing their hand to throw a charge move, but they don't. They let me get to this Shadow Ball right here, which is beautiful because this is so much free damage that I'm doing to the Mantine. And then we're obviously going to come in with Magnezone. They swap into Quagsire, and we're going to go ahead and come in with Buzzwole. What I was thinking was going to happen is they might try to throw a Hail Mary Water Pulse in order to get a shield from me. That's why I came in with Magnezone first and not Buzzwole, because what I didn't want to happen is I come in with Buzzwole and I get hit with an Aerial Ace. That would be bad because I'd have to shield. So we're going to go ahead and start shielding these Mud Bombs right here. We went for Lunges, obviously, because that's going to debuff the damage that this Shadow Quagsire can do. We're going to no-shield this next charge move, but it was a Stone Edge, unfortunately. That did so much damage, and now Buzzwole right here is going to go ahead and go for this lunge now to get the final shield from my opponent. If they decide to let it go, which they don't, we now have to shield. Switch clock is coming back up, and we got to be very careful about the Mantine sniping us. So they do decide to come in, but this is okay. And this is okay for a reason, because now I can farm down with Volt Switch, and I should be able to... Oh, they had a lot of energy right there. That's not good. Please don't be Water Pulse. No, it's just an Aerial Ace, which is perfect. We're going to be able to resist that, and now we can go for Mirror Shot here against the Quagsire, and that is going to be a good game. Very well played as Mirror Shot. Boom. See ya. And this team putting in a lot of work. Flyer Vigoroth cores with the Flyer on the lead is ridiculously common in this meta. All right, moving to the next one. We have Altaria on the lead. Once again, really nice lead. They're deciding to stay in, so we'll have to see why. We're obviously core breaking in some way. So we're just going to make sure we overload on energy, and we're going to go ahead and go for a Mirror Shot here after we have the double Wild Charge. There is nothing like the fear of a Shadow Magnezone with Wild Charges in this meta. And let me tell you, if you have a Flyer on your team, this thing is pretty scary. But if you have Palossand, you're looking pretty good. As Altaria now decided to throw the Sky Attack, we shielded right there, and we're going to go ahead and go for Wild Charge now. If we get the 1-0 shield, so be it, but they decide to let it go, and now we're going to go for Wild Charge here against Vigoroth, as this basically one-shots. You guys saw how much damage it did before, and they decide to let it go, so we're going to swap into Palossand, and they bring in a Pelipper. And Palossand right here, really nice safe swap, especially for double Flyer meta teams, which is the ABA formation, because even though Weather Ball is super effective, these Shadow Balls right here can do a lot of damage. It's basically just like calculate, it's like 50% against everything. So they decide to shield. They're going to go ahead and aggressively farm me down, but I do get to a Scorching Sands in time, and they actually decide to throw. So this is now huge for me. This is so huge because Magnezone only has to worry about one Weather Ball instead of two. So I'm going to go ahead and just go for the farm down. I obviously have to shield right here. I need this Volt Switch damage to be able to go through. And that is looking to be a good game as we come in with Buzzwole against the Vigoroth, and they are going to go ahead and go down. And that is going to be the final one. In yesterday's video, guys, with the team that I ran, which I believe was Skarmory, Scrafty, Vigoroth, I saw so many Altaria and Vigoroth teams, and I'm just seeing more of that. Now, if you guys are wondering my elo range, I'm in the 2600s right now with this team, and that's what I saw. It's just a lot of Flyers and a lot of Vigoroths. So yeah, overall this team was pretty fun. Even if you face off against something like Skarmory and Whiscash Core, Buzzwole can do really well in that matchup too. So hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Pretty spicy team, unique, great coverages, and a lot of power here. So like always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.